Quick note before we start today's episode featuring Matt Light, Patriots Hall of Fame left tackle. We're going to be talking about his foundation, the Light Foundation. And right now, going through September 10th, there's a raffle at returnofthegoat.com so that you can win tickets to go see Tom Brady playing in New England. It's a must if you're trying to go to that game, unless you want to spend thousands of dollars. Go to returnofthegoat.com so you can enter. And with that being said, here's Matt Light.
Welcome back to Beyond the Helmet. That's hashtag BTH Pod if you're following on social media. I'm Steve McGrath, and today, man, it's a pleasure for me. It's one of the all-time best Patriots. Don't take my word for it. He's only in the Patriots Hall of Fame, 50th anniversary team, 11-year player, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, 3-time Super Bowl champ, Matt Light. Matt, how's it going today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I see that you have a little me on your I guess it's your right shoulder, but more importantly, you've got a guy that I have a lot of respect for on that wall that I can see. I'm sure there's many of them. That's one of them. But over your other shoulder, we have the one and only Romeo Crennel. So
That's right.
I haven't seen Rack in a long time, but man, he was one of my favorites. What a great coach. What a great guy. And brings back a lot of memories looking at that wall behind you.
And I know you can't see it, but I actually saw Logan Mankins a week or two ago. And that's someone that I'd imagine must have been your buddy for a long time.
Look, you have very few opportunities to play with guys for an extended period of time. And, I was fortunate, played in New England my entire career. And I was also fortunate to play with, what I think are some of the greatest players at many positions to have ever played the game. And I would say that a guy like Logan Mankins embodies everything that anybody would want in a teammate, a player, as a fan. He walked in on day one, as a vet, really with a mature attitude and, bringing a lunch pail to work kind of guy, and as a wingman, he made me look good many, many ways.
So what you said about playing with some of the best, though, does the team being so good, Brady and Belichick getting so much attention that in a way it almost kind of hampers? I mean, thankfully, Ty Law made it. Richard Seymour looks like he's on the cusp, but someone like yourself, I think a case could be made. You should have gone to more than 3 Pro Bowls. And I think you could say the same for not just Logan, but on the defensive side, so many guys. Did team success overshadow some of the individual attention that some of you guys deserved?
I guess it's debatable. I mean, from a player's perspective, I think that, some guys look at it one way, other guys look at it a different way. I mean, I was always in the camp of, I'm going to focus on trying not to get trucked every Sunday, and just do what I have to do. And I was never a guy that looked at that stuff. Now, if you talk to some DBs and, some other guys that are a little bit flashier on the field, and I don't want to single out just the DBs, wide receivers, DBs, these guys that are, very much into the game aspect of it, right? Like you think about our mentality on the line up front. I mean, really, honestly, we're supposed to be overshadowed in everything that we do, because if we're getting recognized, it's a bad day. It's a bad day for many people who need recognition and need to be scoring points. So, I mean, I always took the approach that, I'd rather win as a team than look good as an individual. And I think that that's where it stops. And for a lot of guys that I played with, and it was built into the system, right? It was the mentality that we took into not just our individual performances, but, how we looked at preparation leading up to, a big game. Hey, coach may ask me to, do something different. He may ask me to do something I'm really not that comfortable with. I mean, I can remember as a rookie, Bill came up and said, "Hey, we want you to play right tackle." I mean, he might have had better luck building my confidence saying he wanted me to play quarterback. I mean, right tackle versus left tackle is a massive change for any player. So you just never know what these coaches are going to ask you to do. And I think the mentality in New England has always been under, Bill Belichick that, we're just there to win. And however we got to do that, we got to do that. And team success is, the biggest part of winning, right? Because you can't win as individuals. And, it's a long way to answer your question, but I'm safe in my own mindset that, the time that I spent in New England was very valuable and very precious. And obviously we had a lot of success, but it didn't come easy. That's for sure.
Oh, and I appreciate the answer. It reminded me of something that Tyrone Poole had said. I had a chance to speak to him recently. Of course, he was only there for a fraction of the amount of time that you were, but he basically said that, when you're a great team and you're, gunning for championships, practices should be tougher than the games on Sundays because everyone has that high level of intensity, iron sharpening iron. Obviously, those teams that you were on were so good on both sides of the ball. That I would imagine that an element of that is the team over the individual emphasis. I just don't see any other way for it to really work.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, we T Pool, I haven't seen him in a long time, but we had so many guys that made the system work. Especially early on, it was the guys that nobody had heard of, right? It was this new concept of coming out as a team and not individual introductions and not putting our names out there for everybody to kind of fawn over, I guess, like you see in other areas and on other teams. And that was a newer concept back in the day. But I think in the locker room, it was one that we were really comfortable with because it also took the spotlight off a lot of guys that really didn't want it on them. So, it goes both ways because there's also the guys that thrive in the spotlight. They thrive with the attention and it's not bad. It's just harnessing 53 very unique individuals, some of whom like running into walls like myself, others, want to look pretty and, making it all happen. And I think that's what makes football truly unique. It's the difference in the number of individuals that make up a team sport like football versus, basketball or baseball or any other sport really. So it's something that I always look back on now and I'm like, it's amazing. I got 4 kids. I can't stop chaos from happening at all in my own home, let alone having 53 giant, rambunctious children and trying to keep them in line. So we may want to get Belichick to run like our school systems here in the very near future.
Well, I don't know if you were aware of this, but Tom Brady is actually going to be playing the Patriots this year. Some have been referring it as the return of the GOAT. I don't know if you knew this, but in all seriousness, what you've done with your foundation, it's been 20 years now. You guys have continued to ramp up what you've done, particularly, in the New England area. Obviously I'm biased. I live here. I've heard you on the radio speak about it, but what I would call very easily, hands down, I don't even care what the Super Bowl is. The most important game of this season is the Buccaneers coming to face the Patriots. I mean, a ticket right now goes for like at least $1,000 for the worst seat in the house. Completely crazy. Are you aware of a more cost-effective way of trying to get to that game?
I'd say like if you're any good at pole vaulting, I would go from the south end zone and try to get the biggest, springiest pole. And if you can clear, the upper lip of the stadium, you're in. So it's worth a shot. No, I don't know, man. It's one of those things that I think everybody thought about the scheduling and the fact that they have to bring Tommy back to New England. But I think a lot of people were still kind of shocked that it's happening so soon, right? I mean, it's one of these matchups that you can't write a script like this. And I think that it happens so often with Belichick and with our team, when I played and over the years, you got a dynamic person, you got a dynamic system, and they want to throw everything they can at that system and see how it responds. But I think as a fan, I mean, what better way to judge the greatest to ever do it in coaching, Bill Belichick, on how he prepares for a guy that he knows better than anyone and a guy that can destroy you quicker than anyone, and how this is all going to shape up. I mean, there's a reason these tickets are that expensive. This will be the game of the year, like as you noted. I mean, I really think it will be. Now, will it end up being a close game? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that has to unfold between now and then, right? Marks, there'll be a lot of things still up in the air. Unfortunately, we're still going to be dealing with, the COVID issue. That'll be difficult for these teams to navigate within. Either there's going to be injuries that pop up between now and then. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, both of these teams will walk into this matchup with as healthy a crew as they can, and we'll see the best that they have to offer.
I think it'll be fireworks regardless. But the reason why I bring up the Matt Light Foundation, the Light Foundation, is the fact that you guys have put together a package that's for raffling right now for people to actually be able to go see that game. So do you mind just speaking a little bit more about what is truly probably going to be the best game of the year? At least if you're in this area, you care about football, how could you not love the storyline? But again, do you mind just speaking about what you're actually doing and how this raffle came about?
Yeah, listen, and I appreciate the opportunity, because if you don't have a giant pole vault and you don't have a way into the game yet, we put together this package because it's perfect for a sweepstakes, right? Like, people are used to the online raffles. People are used to, trying to spend, not even a fraction, but like, a 1/1 millionth of what some of these tickets are going for, right? To get an opportunity to do something that's truly once in a lifetime, because I don't know that you'll ever see a matchup like this again. And so we launched a sweepstakes. It's at Return of the GOAT, and I can't help but want to sing that song. You know what song I'm talking about?
Return of the Mac?
That's right. Yeah. I actually went as far, Steve, as to write some lyrics, which I will not sing for you right now, because
I know you got the voice. You have the pipes.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the kind of voice that you want to run from. But the Return of the GOAT, we've had so much fun with this, because in my mind, right? Look, I came from a small hometown, and I didn't get an opportunity to go see games. And when I look at these sweepstakes and these raffles, the beauty of it is that a mom or a dad or an uncle or a grandfather can spend, $5, $10, $15, maybe $20. Hey, look, it's still $20, but at the end of the day, you spend that $20, that it's going to support, in this case, the Light Foundation, our work with kids and teaching them how to be real, and all the things we do through our programming. But you also have the ability to win for $20 or whatever you end up buying, the opportunity to be at this game. And this game is going to be unbelievable. And we've got great secondary prizes. There's also ways to get, other stuff within, the sweepstakes, but returnofthegoat.com, check it out, grab some for yourself or your buddies, and you may find yourself sitting at what's going to be the greatest game, right?
Yeah, and just for anyone that's keeping score, if you're actually going to do this, the deadline's 9/10. So by the time this podcast is out, there's going to be about 2 weeks for you to still be able to go do that. I believe there's also Davio's gift card, being able to, about Patriots Pro Shop gift card,
That's
dinner
right.
at Davio's, stipend for taxes and transportation. I mean, this is not just going to the game. This is a whole different experience. Like you said, a once in a lifetime deal. That's not just going to a game.
Well, you know how us linemen do it. It's all about style and fashion.
Hey, but that's why we appreciate a lineman doing it. Linemen know how to eat. You made sure that's part of the deal.
That's a fact. And listen, as a man that still hovers around 300, I do enjoy my snacking and my eating. It's a problem.
When you think about the game, though, do you think that, does this really, like, legacy wise for Tom or coach, does it mean more for one or the other? Can they truly compartmentalize this as just being a game and forget all the history? Is the media going to hype it up too much, or is it really just a game?
Yeah. Oh, listen, the media's got to hype it up, right? I mean, what else? What else will you do in the week? I mean, people that are in other markets are going to be talking about this game. I mean, clearly in Tampa and in the New England region, it'll trickle down into New York. There'll be, people talking about it that cover, beat writers for, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's going to be nationwide, and it should be. It deserves it. So, yeah, it'll be completely overhyped. It'll be, by the time they play the game, every fan is just going to be like, thank goodness we finally got here, right? It's almost like the Super Bowl. But I think that, for the coach and the players, 85% of this game is going to be business as usual, right? But to say that there's not going to be a special edge, especially with the two, main characters in this matchup, and a Bill Belichick and a Tom Brady, there's going to be a little something more that's being put into this one, because there's a lot of mind games that happen in the game of football. There's a lot of things that, coaches are showing you now or showing you last week, or practicing they're allowing out, that's just there to make the other team practice those things and have to worry about them and deal with them. They'll never see them in a game, right? So all the chess match, all the little pieces that get shuffled around the board, they're going to be magnified for this one. And these two know each other really well, so they know what buttons to push. It's going to be fun to see who's pushing the majority of the buttons and how they're doing it and how the other responds. That is going to be fun to watch.
I'm just happy that, guys like Dante Hightower came back. I hope Stephon Gilmore's back, because clearly the Patriots defense is going to have to be up to snuff for this to be a good game. Tom has shown he's pretty good at playing that whole offense thing. So I'm hoping it'll be good. But do you think that in terms of legacy, one guy needs it more than the other to say that they edged out?
No, because, I think the legacy is by nature something that's built over time. And look, these guys have been doing it long enough that their legacy is solidified at this point, right? It would take something catastrophic to really change in the eyes of the viewer, of the fan, who these individuals are. Now, bragging rights, for bragging right purposes, I think this one holds a lot of weight, right? Look, Tom loves to compete. Bill Belichick loves to compete. That competitive nature is what drives the best players on earth, right? So if you win in something as competitive as this, it's going to mean a lot. And I think that, the bragging rights side of it will be what they walk away with, and that's what they're looking for.
I know we talked about a lot of the guys that are still doing it, but I really want to just get into your career a little bit, because you obviously are very well accomplished. And, just from the outside, you see someone that's an all-conference player in college, immediately start as a rookie, and it takes a couple years before you get to hit your first Pro Bowl. But you can certainly see, a straight line up in terms of performance, you being able to up your game basically on a yearly basis. So when you just think about how you went from that young kid, but maybe playing right tackle, to get just having the career that you did, do you have any thoughts about what it took or what you did to actually improve your game and not just sort of try to maintain, but, find greater success?
Yeah, I think when I look back on it, it started for me as a kid. I grew up with a father who had severe polio, couldn't play sports. I mean, people don't talk about polio today because, it doesn't exist really, right? And but back in the day, that was a big deal. And no one in my family played sports. My mom taught music for 35 years. My father was a musician, engineer, brainiac, and people in my family were into the outdoors, hunting, fishing, camping, all those kind of things. No one played sports. I was really, the only kid in my immediate family, let alone my extended family, that was big into sports. And so I'd never seen a football game in my life. I grew up in Big Ten country, right? I'd never seen a college football game, period. I didn't have friends that watched it. I didn't hear them talking about it, let alone see it. I didn't know Purdue was in the Big Ten. So, when people hear that, they think it's kind of like, I don't know, an exaggeration, but it's not. It wasn't part of my life growing up. And I didn't know you could get a scholarship and have your college paid for, which turned out to be pretty cool, because my dad's like, hey, look, nobody paid for my school. If you want to go to college, figure it out, kid, because you're going to have to earn it. And so that mentality of always earning, like my mother, look, I wanted to quit football. I started playing when I was 8. And she was like, hey, look, you signed up. What you start, you finish. And it was that kind of an upbringing that, really solidified in my mind what it meant, to be a good teammate, what it meant to, earn a position and earn a spot somewhere. And, I love to compete. I mean, competition was everything for me too. So, here's this kid that knows nothing, gets an opportunity to go play at Purdue. I go to Purdue. We were terrible. I'm starting at tight end. for some odd reason. I don't know why they thought I had athletic ability. And my true freshman year, and then got an injury. A kid named Breeze steps in. I go to play left tackle. And look, I'm the luckiest guy in the face of the planet, right? You go from, high school to blocking for Drew Brees during your, college days. And then you go to New England and you start blocking for a guy named Brady. You can suck every day and be all right. Now, I kind of brought that mentality of, hey, look, I don't know that I deserve to be here, but I want to prove that I can stick around. And, that's what I did each and every day. Right. And I also learned about the league and the game from the inside out. Right. I got to hear, from guys like, Roman Pfeiffer, right. Early in my career, when I get to New England, veterans on our team, Anthony Pleasant, like these guys that a lot of people maybe have forgotten about if they weren't hardcore fans. But for those of us that were in the locker room, these guys brought so much to the game, and not just on the field, right? So, I got to learn all these things in real time. I got to be around the best of the best. I cherished every moment, not the ones necessarily where Bill was running us into the ground or beating the tar out of us, but the ones that made it worthwhile, right? The relationships and the winning and the success and all that kind of stuff. And, again, I think the biggest thing was just wanted to prove that I had a right to be there every day. Didn't take it for granted, that's for sure, because I didn't feel like I ultimately, I kind of felt like I was getting a free lunch. And at some point, they're going to realize that they gave this kid from Ohio a pass that he shouldn't have actually been, involved with. So that's my story.
And I was going to ask, did you ever feel any pressure trying to replace Bruce Armstrong? Prior to this Brady era, there wasn't a whole bunch of things to smile on in Patriots history, but you were replacing one of the all-time greats. But everything you just said leads me to believe that, like, you were there and seemingly just sort of trying to not be found out that maybe you were an outsider.
I was trying to do what Dante said, trying to figure out if the ball was pumped or stuffed, because I didn't know anything, And so, yeah, I mean, what's interesting about Bruce Armstrong, my offensive line coach in college at Purdue, a guy named Danny Hope, one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game, period. I was very fortunate. My line coaches were, Danny Hope and Dante Scarnecchia for my entire career. Those are the two best ever to do it, in my opinion. Danny coached Bruce Armstrong at Louisville. I think it was at Louisville. And, he told me, he goes, look, you're stepping into an area and you're going to be competing for a position against a guy. Now, at the time, we didn't know that, Bruce was on his way out, but, or maybe we did, but he was basically just telling me about Bruce Armstrong and the legend of Bruce Armstrong. Again, I didn't know anything. And so, yeah, when I got to New England, it was like, oh boy, I got to take over for this guy. This is going to be interesting. But, there's also a lot of competition at that point in time. Adrian Clem had been drafted the year before. He was supposed to be in that position. He was still battling some injuries. They tried me at right tackle. I got banged up in training camp, ended up not doing anything for 2 weeks. And then, being thrown back to the left side to start the season opener in Cincinnati, which did not go very well. But good news is we ended up all right that season.
Can you, and by the way, Chucky Okobi came on the show to talk about Coach Hope and loved him. And Coach Tiller, I've had Aiken Adele on as well, guys that absolutely sing the praises of the Purdue coaches at that time. So, like, outside of Breeze, Roosevelt Colvin, certainly a lot of good times for the Purdue Boilermakers back in the late 90s. But jumping back to Coach Scar, obviously you got to know the ins and outs of the game if you're going to be a coach, period. But he is widely renowned as being one of the best ever. What is it about what he could do that just year in and year out, the Patriots offensive line was never really an issue? What was he doing to get five guys together in a way that no one else could?
Yeah, a lot. It wasn't any one thing. It was, I would say, the overarching thing that he did that probably did the most for all the guys in the offensive line room was he was consistent. Look, you got a lot of guys that are getting paid a lot of money sitting in the seats and in different meeting rooms. And when you look at the offensive line, look, these guys that make up an offensive line, they're not the highest paid guys on the team for the most part, right? But they are the kind of guys that, you don't want to BS, right? You don't want to try to, tell them one thing and not deliver, because, there's a moral code, so to speak, right, that goes along with coaching the offensive line, that, we better believe that our coach has our backs, because we're going to have to take a lot of crap, right? We're not going to get all the praise. We're going to get dog cussed when anything goes wrong, right? We're the group that has the most players on the field at any one time, and we don't tap out. We're not defensive linemen. You don't see this, God love you guys, but we're the grunts. And so at the very least, what you have to do is you have to shoot us straight, and you can't BS us, and you got to be consistent in how you do it. And look, that was Dante Scarnecchia. He was as consistent a guy as there ever was. He was the first guy there, last guy to leave, other than Bill. He was the guy that had the most trust from a guy like Bill Belichick. That was his right hand. That was his, if Bill wasn't there, Dante Scarnecchia, was the head of the organization, so to speak, right? So I think it tells you a lot when you think about, Bill putting that kind of trust in a guy like, Dante Scarnecchia. And then outside of that, just his approach to teaching technique and, just never coming off the gas. I mean, it was never going to be good enough. It never will be good enough, but we're going to work like heck to try to get there.
So I want to jump to a couple more things that the foundation has going on, but one last question for you. One thing, and I don't believe anyone knew this until after you retired, was that you had battled Crohn's disease your entire career. Basically, you didn't miss a game for it. You certainly didn't let it ever show on the field, but what was it like for you? I believe you had nearly 2 feet of your intestines removed after you played, but how much did that hamper your ability to just get ready, year in, year out? And, ultimately, how are you feeling today? Any repercussions from anything you had put your body through?
Yeah, it was an interesting run. It started my rookie year, at least the diagnosis. And, there's so many people that I talk to now. It's like it's the new car syndrome. You get a new car and then you realize everybody in the world drives this new car. It's like, what is happening here? I had never heard of Crohn's or IBD or any of that kind of stuff. And then, as I started to battle, and my fight with Crohn's and learning about it and the whole nine, it's apparent that, look, I'm not the only one. And there are so many people that battle it in so many different ways. And when I played, there were times that it was very, very difficult. Right. But I think too, that it actually gave me a special strength, I guess. I don't know how else to say that, but it forced me to think about things differently, and it forced me to change my diet. It forced me to, recognize that, look, I'm not the only one going through stuff. And so it helped me keep things in perspective in a way. I don't think I would have been the player that I was, the teammate that I was, if I didn't go through those things. So I'm a big believer in, God puts things in your path, and, you choose how you're going to respond, but there is a right and a wrong way. And, I just tried to always keep positive with it. And, major surgery, I spent about 30 straight days in the hospital, not eating once. That was a treat, man. That's something you got to do to believe that you can come through it. Missed one of the ring ceremonies. My wife brought it to me in the hospital. And I look back on all those moments and say, man, how lucky of a guy was I that, not that I have this disease, but that, I was able to continue to do what I love to do, and do it, despite, the fact that I had to deal with some bad stuff, but still had all those good memories. And so many people, haven't been able to, have that kind of a journey. So I like to say that, look, I don't need to inspire you, but I do need to show you that there is a way that you can deal with these things. And your attitude, I think, is the biggest one. And it's not easy. It's not easy to this day, but you know what? I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to try to attack life and have fun doing it. So it is what it is on that front. And my biggest thing to people that do have it or have a loved one that has it is ask as many questions as you can, educate yourself. And look, doctors heal and firefighters, pull people out of burning buildings, and, police officers solve crimes, right? But not always. And not because they're not trying, but because I'm a believer in the fact that you control your own destiny. You know more than anybody else knows about you. If you're watching this and you have a loved one or you yourself are battling, keep asking questions and don't be afraid to challenge what a doctor, or in this case, a firefighter, anybody else tells you, because you're probably right if you're not getting the answers that you want, you know. So that's my little health tip of the day here. But you know, I'm doing well, and I appreciate the question.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I think that it's sound advice. But as alluded to, what kills me in the best of ways about the Light Foundation is that it's not a one-trick pony. Like, as I've alluded to use the same word twice in 30 seconds. You guys running the foundation have, year in and year out for so many years, have not just continued to do the same thing. You innovate, you always bring new things. So we have the 17th annual celebrity shootout coming up right around the corner. I believe you also have a corporate training day. So on top of the fact that we have Return of the GOAT, do you mind also speaking about 2 other events that you have next month? And, how do you find the time to plan all this stuff?
Well, look, you got to have a good team. I mean, that's one thing that I know, in my soul, I know that, it's definitely not me. But, we've got a team that, these events are all run in-house, right? We don't farm these things out. And the other thing is, these events are a lifeline. We don't get federal grants, state grants, and all those kind of things. And you know what? There's a big part of that I really appreciate, because it forces us as a nonprofit to always judge what we're doing and how we're doing it, because real dollars are hard to come by, right? So, I love doing the work that we do. I love the events that we put on. Those 2 events that are coming up here in September are going to, well, the shootout has been around for so long now, and it raises about 80% of our funds. And the shootout is an incredible day. It's golfing with a shotgun. We're almost sold out on that one. It's like one of these days where you just get to enjoy the outdoors, hanging with your friends, cruising around, trying different disciplines, fly fishing, shooting archery, shooting guns, rifles, handguns, sporting clays, and then a big dinner, a big party at the end, and a live auction and all kind of cool stuff. The one that I'm really looking forward to is happening the day before. So on September 20th, we will be hosting at Addyville East Farm our first ever corporate training day. And this one's really special to me because it hits 3 very key buckets. One, it's going to support the foundation, the Light Foundation, our work with kids, and our leadership academy and the things that we do. Number 2, it's going to support HAVA. And HAVA is a phenomenal military charity that focuses on our wounded soldiers as they come home, to give them opportunities to do what they love to do. And so we're glad to be partnering with them. Lastly, we're going to be working alongside some of the greatest special forces members in our nation's history. And these are the guys that perform at the highest levels, period. Guys that were featured in movies like 12 Strong, guys that, sacrificed everything for our behalf. And so to honor those guys and have those guys be around and share their story with a whole bunch of people that are going to be coming in for this event is truly special. We do have room open for that one. We're going to be doing a lot. We'll actually be shooting full auto from tanks. I mean, you got to put a smile on your face when you do that. So
no one's ever frowned and done that.
Yeah, right. You can't, it's like riding a jet ski. I remember there's a comedian talking about it's like impossible to have a frown on your face when you're riding a jet ski. It's the same when you're shooting full auto, an M2 50 BMG from a tank. That's going to create a smile. But this event's going to be phenomenal, but it's really geared towards, the C-suite execs, these, CEOs and different folks that are in positions of leadership, because at the end of the day, you're going to get to hear from these guys. You're going to get to hear about how the training, the most elite training on earth, translates from the battlefield to a boardroom, and how these guys deal with things with their own businesses now, and holding people accountable, and, getting people on the same page, and dealing with adversity, all those kind of things that, everybody in the real world has to fight, and has to deal with on a regular basis. So we're really excited and honored that these guys are going to be a part of this event. And you can go to mattlight72.com. We've got all the information on pop-ups when you first log on to the site, and we'd love to see you out there. It'll be a great day.
Yeah, I love the potential ripple effect. Work with C-level guys that can, or and ladies, of course, that go back to their companies, and then they can influence culture. And then who knows how far that ripple effect goes down through their employees. I mean, it just seems like not only is it just a great experience, but that actually, by reaching the right people, can affect others and just overall get us a little closer to moving in the right direction overall. But man, I know we're running a little long on time. So Matt, to get you out of here, I got a couple quick hitter questions. It's called the gauntlet. I hope you're ready. I need your knee-jerk
I'm
answer on a
ready.
couple of things, man. What's most important? Is it having the number one offense or the number one defense?
Man, I love offense all the way, so I'm going offense. It's contrary. It flies in the face of the New England system, but offense.
Now, is there a particular Super Bowl that was that brought you the greatest amount of joy, and was there a particular Super Bowl loss that brought you the lowest of the lows? Did you have any sort of ranking system for every event that you were in?
Yeah, I don't, but I would say that the first Super Bowl is the one that I always go to in my mind, just because it was my rookie year and it was a crazy season and 9/11 and, being in New Orleans. And for many reasons, it ranks as probably, the most memorable. And I would say from a loss perspective, the first one against the Giants, that one hurt. The last one I knew I was on my way out. So I kind of celebrated a little bit after that one because, hey, by the way, when you lose a Super Bowl, you still had one hell of a season. Just want to point that out.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, Gross's teammate, who was it and why was it Larry Izzo?
Yeah, you're right. You don't have to think about that one. It was definitely Larry. And when I say Gross, I mean that in the most respectful way. He was one of my favorite teammates, by the way. But Larry had a bathroom manner that was second to none. Like you didn't have to wonder who was in the stall next to you. You knew it was Larry. I'll leave it at that.
Toughest pass rusher. Anyone in particular stand out as giving you the greatest fits?
Yeah, without a doubt, Dwight Freeney. Wears number 93. I still see it when I close my eyes sometimes. Here's a guy that had, not one, not two, but three moves that were all world. Not like really good, but like all world. And just to put it in reference, if you have one really good move, you're probably a Pro Bowler. So, just so fans know, it's hard for a guy to do that many things that well.
Is there a best trash talker? Anyone that stands out?
Oof, a lot of trash talkers. I'd put Channing Crowder up there with the best of them.
Okay. And man, last one, I think it's the most important. What's the best piece of advice that you would give to a young 16, 17-year-old kid that says, hey man, how do I come close to doing anything that you were able to do?
Man, you stay humble. Don't ever think you have all the answers. Matter of fact, seek knowledge in everything that you do and pay attention to those around you, because you can learn as much from the failures and successes of everyone else as you could do anything on your own, right? So just be open to things. Don't think you got all the answers. Prove people right or prove them wrong, but you got to prove it. And so if you do those things, you'll go a long way.
There you have it. Matt Light, thank you so much for taking the time. The Light Foundation can be found at mattlight72.com to enter the raffle to get to the Return of the GOAT. Very easy. returnofthegoat.com so that you can enter the sweepstakes there. Is there any other place we can follow you in what you're doing? I know you're not a big social media guy.
I've never logged on to a site in my life, and I never will, but the foundation's got awesome stuff, and I sneak in on our foundation social media all the time. But yeah, check us out online at mattlight72.com, and just really appreciate, the conversation and the walk back in time and seeing some of my buddies back there on the wall behind you, and wish you the best, man.
Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate it.